In the border side between Mexico and the US back in the 1950s, a man known as Vidal was rustling cattle. The Texas Rangers soon caught up to him, putting an end to his thievery and his life, while in the process unleashing an entity that would terrorize the locals. However, in the Wild West, this place was known as No Man's Land. This was the home of El Muerto. Uy, cucuy, welcome back to the Mexighost Tales. I am your host, Denny Chavez, and we are back. And this legend came as a request from another subscriber, Heather's husband, 209 Bear 202. Thank you so much for your suggestion and making me aware of this legend. If you have any suggestions for future episodes, please let us know in the comment section. As always, you can also find the Mexighost on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We also want you to share your supernatural encounters, ghost stories, or creepy tales. Send us your stories to mexighosttales@gmail.com. As you all know, all we talk about here are urban legends, ghost stories, true crime, conspiracy theories, and more hailing from Mexico. But this time, although this legend takes place in Texas, is closely linked to Mexico. With that being said, we do take suggestions from anywhere in the world. So your requests don't necessarily have to be from Mexico. If you want us to feature a story in our channel, let us know and we will work on it. Today we will talk about El Muerto. This legend takes place in a patch of land between Mexico and the United States. In the 1800s, the US wanted to mark El Rio Grande as the official border with Mexico. Mexico, on the other hand, wanted to mark the border in the Nueces River, leaving a huge chunk of land known as No Man's Land. These were fertile grounds for thieves, murderers, and many other outlaws. Besides that, the people had to fight Indians that would attack the settlers constantly. To combat the ambushes suffered by these attacks, Stephen F. Austin, also known as the Father of Texas, created the Corps of Rangers to protect the border. This included No Man's Land. These men were ruthless and would stop at nothing to get their man. They became infamous for the methods they employed to get their targets. Sometimes said methods were so brutal, but it didn't matter. In any event, they served the purpose, and the group of men were well respected and feared. Two men that belonged to this group were Creed Taylor and William Alexander Anderson Bigfoot Wallace. In 1950, a cattle rustler known as Vidal saw an opportunity to strike and get some horses and cattle from the settlers. He took advantage of a Comanche raid that would pull most men north to fight off the attacks. The settlements were left unguarded, and Vidal, with two of his henchmen, stole a considerable number of horses from the San Antonio River and made their way back southwest, heading to Mexico. Unfortunately for Vidal, amongst those horses were some prized Mustangs that were property of Texas Ranger Creed Taylor, and this guy was not going to let it go, as Taylor was one of the first Rangers to show up and fight the attacks. His property was right in the middle of the bandit territory, and him, alongside Bigfoot Wallace, had tried a bunch of tactics to persuade outlaws from stealing cattle. At the time, this was a way more serious crime than murder, and the two Texas Rangers had tried their hand in all kinds of brutal justice. Amongst their methods was included hanging bandits from trees, filling them up with bullets, and even leaving their remains as animal bait, but nothing would deter the thieves from stealing. Obviously, Creed was pissed, and with Bigfoot Wallace and another settler, they were set on their way to recoup what they had lost and make sure their brand of justice was served. The Texas Rangers would always get their man, and this was going to be no exception. They soon caught up to the outlaws. Once they spotted them, they waited until the nighttime to catch their man while they were sleeping. This time, Creed was determined to make an example out of Vidal. He wanted to make sure nobody would mess with them, and he was not alone. Bigfoot Wallace had evil intentions on his mind as well. After killing Vidal and his henchmen, Bigfoot Wallace proceeded to behead Vidal and tied it down to the saddle of one of their horses. Not only that, Bigfoot then proceeded to tie the head of Vidal wearing his sombrero with rawhide in the same saddle, and then he released the horse to wander around Texas with evidence of one of the cruelest forms of justice ever served. Soon, people in the vicinity witnessed what became known as El Muerto, a headless man galloping around South Texas. Bigfoot had done what no one could till that day. People feared the entity. All kinds of stories came about how El Muerto would rid of bandits in an effort to save his soul, and sure enough, no man's land was avoided by outlaws as much as possible. In a tiny community known as Bend Bolt, south of Alice, Texas, a group of ranchers finally caught up with the steed. Still strapped to his back was the dried body of Vidal, which was filled with bullets and Indian arrows. The corpse was placed to rest in an unmarked grave, and the horse was let loose. The legend of El Muerto had come to his end, or so you would thought. Soldiers at Fort Inge, modern-day Uvalde, Texas, claimed to have seen the headless rider atop his white horse as soon as Vidal's body was buried, and the accounts of El Muerto galloping in the night have been retold by ranchers and travelers in no man's land. And with that, we come to the end of another Mexighost Tales. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did so, please subscribe to the channel, leave a like and a comment, and we will see you on the next one, where we will explore another part of Mexico's other history.
Y celebraremos una gran fiesta mexicana juntos.
¿De qué fiesta hablas?
Noviembre 2.
¿Y qué celebran?
A los muertos.